You know that old country song? Turn around, darling, back to back, we can't be friends. So here I am, we're turned around, welcome, and I hope no one got in any problems with this big accident out there. And so we will get started, and I know we have guests, so Sandy's over here, and you were here last year, but reintroduce yourself, darling.
Hello, I'm Christina from Toronto, and I'm very pleased to be back.
All right.
Yeah.
Peter from the same place, and also very pleased to be back.
Okay. All right. Any other newcomers that made it? Yeah, this is a small group.
This is a small group today.
Well, they're all small.
Oh, it's because of the accident.
We're not an accident.
No,
Yeah.
we've been pretty hefty group. So
You don't count numbers.
I'm
Like
afraid.
the crowd
I'm
size.
afraid.
There you go.
It's not the crowd size.
No, it isn't. I'm just worried about whether we have newcomers that couldn't make it because of the road out here. I was hoping nobody got stuck too much. Somebody's coming from the road.
No, we're going to work on the internet behind you. You just go right ahead.
Mark and I have
Yeah, I don't want to harsh people.
Mark and Lisa have an
Now,
announcement.
any other newcomers? No other newcomers? Mark and Lisa have an announcement.
next Thursday, or no, this coming Thursday at 2 p.m. we're doing a singing bowl sound ceremony here. Here, yeah. So I think we have room for 6 people, and so it'll be 20 mil a person, and it's at 2 o'clock for 90 minutes. We'd love to have you come and enjoy that. Yeah, I guess if you can get in touch with me to book your at 2 p.m.
2 p.m.
So if you can just book your spot with me, because it's 6, you can't kind of just leave it willy-nilly, but yeah, let me know if you're interested.
People should bring their own mats.
Bring your mat. Yeah.
Okay. Well, now we'll do a formal welcome, everybody. Good morning.
You good? Good morning.
Now let's just go ahead and begin with three minutes of silent sitting. I have new hearing aids, so if I sound a little funny, I'm trying to get sick. I never had them before. I'm adjusting. So,
You sound great,
too
Ruthie.
loud or too soft, let me know. And I feel a little weird. Anyway, we have, is that my ding to begin?
No,
that's just
I'm
her phone.
turning it off. Yeah.
I heard it.
But you heard it, yeah. I was going to say, yeah. Too many dings in the world. Now you got to understand that.
Maybe I can join in the,
You heard it.
conversation. Anyway, they're going to do just 3 brief minutes of sitting silent meditation. Just enough time to relax, close your eyes, or just direct soft eyes to the floor. Take a few deep breaths. Let go of any fears and concerns you may have today. And breathe. Before Jeff left to go back to Minnesota, which was the end of October, I gave some thought to where I wanted to go. We had 2 guest speakers, and John was wonderful, and Brad also gave a good talk. But I had 3 talks, and I thought, I think I want to do a connected thoughts that I can't do in one short session. And I based this on the 3rd Noble Truth. Can everybody hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay, good, because Nelson just told me voices get lower when you put these on. I wanted to put it on the 3rd Noble Truth, which is the truth of the cessation end of suffering. We've got more than enough suffering to go around every day in every way. It just keeps sort of getting worse and worse lately. So I thought it was really a good time to get with the group and do a sort of not just an awareness that this is possible, but some discussion of a strategy for each and every one of us to do individually, but also as a group together, kind of monitor each other if need be, on how to cope with the suffering that we're trying to end. And so I started off with 3 talks, and the last one got shortcut. So I've got to go back to that one to the beginning, so we have plenty of time. But I started off with the first talk was on what the 3rd Noble Truth is. The cessation of suffering can be reduced to pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. This is similar to legal everywhere in the world. Pain and suffering are separate. The Buddha 2,500 years ago said, you know what? Pain, you have to go outside to have help. You have to work. You have to get doctors. You have to do things, tourniquets, whatever. That, and everybody sooner or later is going to suffer some kinds of pain, which need treatment. But suffering is from the mind. Now, of course, the 2 kind of overlap. The suffering in the body can cause problems in the mind and vice versa. But the idea, the one he used, which we covered the first time, was the example of someone, you're walking along and someone shoots an arrow and it hits you in the shoulder. And you don't know where it came from, but it hurts like crazy. And so all you're concerned with is to get it out. If pain is intense, you want it out of it. That's pain. After it's out and it's done and you're all set up, then the suffering begins the minute you say, who did this to me? I am going to make his life miserable. I want revenge. Anytime you shift from the total focus on the actual pain to the circumstances around it that are causing you to have problems, then that's suffering and you can do something about it because it's mental. So this is kind of interesting. And if you play with it, you'll find that it's quite true. It's not what somebody does. It's your knee-jerk reaction is usually negative. And if you can simply take control and detached involvement, back up, take a step back, then respond after you've given it the appropriate amount of time. You say all kinds of negative dynamics, okay? So the problem here that is really of major concern is that in order to not suffer, we need to be able to cope with living with uncertainty. All the time uncertain. Because we live in what is a dualistic world. And so now there are two things that I want definitions for. We all know them anyway. None of this is new to anybody, I don't think. We're reviewing and going over in our own lives and suddenly paying attention to it and seeing if we can do something about some of it for ourselves. The first thing is uncertainty comes from the fact that we have to make choices all day because of the word do. We talk about Buddhism as a non-dual religion, or the teachings as non-dual teachings. Non-dual simply means not two. Okay? But the world we live in on an everyday basis of what we have to do is a dual world, because everything we do, we have to make choices. Do we come? Do we go? Is it right? Is it wrong? Will we be happy, or will this make us sad? We decide. And in the decision making, you always have the seed of, did I make the right decision? Am I making the right choice? What will the consequences be? And we never can be 100% sure, ever. So you are constantly working on making choices. In the non-dual world, which is the main world of the spirit, and it is really the main world of almost all religious mysticism and what have you, all of this becomes one. Now you have a universe. You don't have multiverses. You have a universe. Now when you get married, you're not two anymore. You're one. Okay, everything now merges. So that the thing on this end of the spectrum and the thing on this end of the spectrum that you had to make choices on have now come together. And it's all blended in because you accept the fact that it is not us versus them. We are one. The human species is one species. So this is the whole idea of brotherhood and sisterhood. We're one family. We're not two. And so if you go to war or have a conflict with somebody else, you're really conflicted with yourself. It's as if you were holding two ends of the rope and trying to play tug of war. You're just fighting yourself. And whatever happens, you will never win by eradicating this person on the other end, the us versus them, us versus nature, us versus automobiles. You're not going to win because we are so connected that you simply cannot. So we have situations, a lot of violence. This is the basis for being nonviolent. You are only shooting yourself in the shoulder with the arrow because you are basically one. So this unification idea, it sounds really good, but it seems that we have not, in all the years, for the Veda, several thousand years before the Buddha, to the Buddha, saying, violence never ended by violence, hatred never ended by hatred. The only love bring this together. And you're not going to stop anything by eradication. If now, or if there's a genocide and you kill all the people, your idea is still there. And somewhere there's going to be someone. In the United States, Abraham Lincoln got the idea when he said a house divided cannot stand. And the Civil War is still pulling us apart after all this time. My favorite saying that I came across that I thought represented dualism, the two, was, I've said it before, Walt Kelly was a cartoonist, and he had a little possum named Pogo, who was a little osprey. Everybody remember that one? Yeah. And Pogo said, "We have met the enemy, and he is us." And that really puts it all into a genuinely good perspective. Does that work for you? Want to add to that? Anybody want to add anything to that? We got lots of time today.
I feel like I can understand what you're saying, and it sounds good, but I don't know that I can truly incorporate it.
This is what we're here to see whether we can do that. That's exactly what we're here for, to strategize.
Like, yeah, we're all alone, that's great. But when someone has, I don't think eradication is the right answer, and I get the, not black or white and work in the gray zone, but the non-duality is a struggle.
Non-duality is what?
A struggle.
Non-duality is the struggle. It's the suffering that the third noble truth is telling you you can never have peace of mind when you're uncertain in your mind. And as long as you're dualistic, one of the most difficult ones that Jeff has talked about, I think, several times, is from Zen, and it says, "The happiest man alive is the one who has no preferences." You're right, that's not easy. But it certainly gives you a basis on the fact that you can't kill ideas. You can't kill emotions. Emotions go down from generation to generation to generation. So things your grandparents hated, and then your parents didn't like them, and now you're there, and now you have to change or go with it. It's icky. You guys know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the first thing to do is, how do we cope with the uncertainty? And what do we do about dualism, and where on the spectrum from here to there, which is circular, remember, in Buddhism, it's not linear. You don't go from here and then end up here and then fall off. It's always going around. Where in your attitudes and in your thoughts and in your principles, this is what each and every one of us has to do independently. And the Dharma is, the Buddha said, I am not the moon, I am the finger pointing at you. If you really want the happiness of the Dharma, which is peace of mind, and love and charity and all those good things, you have to present it, because nobody's going to hand it to you from outside. You may get a lot of generous people, particularly in a group like this, that will help you, but they can't do it for you. And we've all had the experience of talking to somebody you might as well not talk to, because they can't hear you. They've built such walls of, opinions of things. They're not willing to sit in silence and be still and quiet and get to that. This is strategy number one. Strategy number one, if you are conflicted, is to sit down. Be quiet. Breathe. Try to be centered. I.e., this is the most classic meditation. The reason for this is, you know the saying, it's so noisy in here I can't hear myself think. You can't hear your still small voice. You can't even hear your great big booming voice unless you try to go quiet. And if you're running really fast, you don't have time to stop and smell the roses. And that running doesn't have to be physical. It could be work or family or emotions or whatever. If you're moving too fast, you need to stabilize. And the trick to that is this. This is a big point, which may not have occurred to you. Silence is not the opposite of sound. Sound comes from the silence. We are talking about a floor, a ground, and a backdrop for ourselves inside, for our self-communication, our work with our own minds and our own hearts, and even our own body. So, in an ordinary world around here, somebody makes noise, you say, it came from so-and-so. Well, it did. When Mark plays the bowls, that sound comes from the bowls. It's not the opposite. What you hear is not the opposite. Got it? I mean, does that make sense? Okay, same way with stillness. Stillness is not the opposite of movement. Movement is coming from the stillness. The stillness is the backdrop and the floor for your insides, which, for want of a better way to put it, that's when you go inside and you sit quietly and you breathe, which causes you to relax physiologically. You begin to settle down, and your interior becomes calmer and quieter. That's why it's stress reducing. And then if you can kind of keep a sense of silence as a backdrop, you will begin to hear things coming up from inside. You hear things that you were talking yourself out of by overanalyzing, by being overstimulated, whatever it is. If you just try to be, you don't stop thinking. You just try to be quiet and see what comes up. Be aware. Okay? Movement, dance. We always have to be coming from a still position, a balanced position of some kind. I'll back up one thing here. Every artistic person I've known a lot of, before they have any kind of a performance, whether it's sports or acting or playing an instrument or any of this, if they're really good, they will go into privacy for whatever time they feel they need, an hour, half an hour, 20 minutes, before the performance, and go still and quiet. And they will meditate, just relax, and they will meditate. And then Joe Jones gets up and he's King Lear. He didn't walk in off the street, throwing his clothes, go in there, and become king. Maybe he's a good enough actor that he could pull it off, but he really wants to give it his best, that's what he does. Even really good ball players, that ball is coming at them slowly as they see it, because they have learned to relax. And when you relax, you can focus, which is right effort, which is step number 6. And then you've got a plan, and you know what's coming, you know what you're going to do, you rehearsed it, and you flow with it. You are not going every which direction. Okay, so it's really important to learn if we're going to actually end our suffering, is to create an environment, each of us individually, as our needs are, to be able to be with ourselves. Relax, let go. This doesn't mean fall asleep. It's just the opposite. It's awareness. And then things begin to happen. And they're very interesting things sometimes. Probably, who does it? Everybody here do this already? I know you do. That's why I asked if you had wanted to add a hint, or I'm trying to set a framework here.
Yeah, I do have something I can offer.
Yeah,
And
please.
you're dancing around it beautifully, and the key to it all is actually, in your part about dualism itself. When we sit quietly and we just listen without expectation or demand or command of the speaker or the situation, if we can just sit quietly and listen, then invariably what ends up happening is you end up hearing the heart or the key of what is actually being shared. It may not be expressed brilliantly or compassionately, but at least you can hear the heart of it. And rather than formulate a response, rather than come up with a lot of reasons why that person may or may not be right, listen to what the truth is and then answer to that truth. And that's where the dualism fades away. That's where it disappears. Because it's no longer me against you. It's not my idea against your idea, my political view against your political view, my idea or your idea. It's us coming together in unison and saying, oh, I hear that when you look at that flower, you see purple. I see a blue purple. Isn't that interesting? But we both see the flower. And we're actually discussing our point of view from the standpoint, isn't it interesting that this is the way that I am? But when we take that other one, like if I'm going to go into a meeting, or if I have a phone call and somebody has something that they really want to get across to me, and I feel that I'm right and that person's wrong, and I will sit there and I will think about it and think about it and think about it and think about it. And if they say this, I'm going to say that. All I'm doing is building up this huge, giant wall, this incredible fortress that somebody needs to break down. And the only way they can do that with force, which is what I take as an insult. See, you must be wrong because you're being forceful. You're trying to change my mind. But the silence doesn't do that. Just in the silence, you just sit and you listen, and you hear what is the person actually trying to communicate to me? What is the heart of the message? And then I share in that, hopefully in that same way.
Very good. That's it. And this is called deep listening. Thich Nhat Hanh does a lot of work with deep listening. And I worked out for myself, and I think it works pretty well. I found that I was a bad listener because I'm always thinking about what the point was, and you make a really good point, and I catch it, I start thinking about it, and then I realize you've gone on and made 2 more points. And I missed it. Or that's one way. The other way that happens is that I'm trying to formulate an answer. That's where you have conflict. I don't like what you said. I'm thinking of a rebuttal.
And invariably you shut down everything else that's said after.
And everything's if the way I did it and it worked for me, I don't know if it'll work for anybody else, but you can try it. And I've brought it up now twice in talks. Is I've tried to listen to a talk, a podcast, or a conversation as if I were listening to music. Stop going with the thoughts or the words. Just let them come like music. Just open your ears and let the sound come in. You actually are understanding it. You hear the notes. You hear the words, but you're not judging them. You're enjoying them or whatever. So you are hearing it, but it works for me. And now I don't jump in this much with an answer before the person's even finished the sentence, which is a very bad habit. And I'm prone to that because I get impatient, particularly people who talk slowly. Has anybody ever tried that? When we talk about the silence, in music, it's the intervals. You wouldn't have music if you didn't have the silence. In meditation, it's called, in conversation, it's called the gap. Or in philosophy, it's called the gap, too. The great saying is, the great teaching, also from Zen, is, how do I improve my meditation? And the Zen master says, lengthen the gap. Take more time. Just let it be. Answers come to you. Haven't you ever had the, I think we've all had the experience that we've got a problem and we finally give up on it and we go to bed and we wake up in the morning and we've got an answer. Our minds are like, and if mine's kind of like a Rolodex. I'm always trying now because I can't remember names. And at night it's running through them and in the morning I know who they were. what it was. But, so this business of setting an inside space and an inside time to be still and to be quiet is absolutely, I believe, the floor and the backdrop for the third noble truth, for the cessation of self. I think you have to really, I don't know quite how to say it, but you have to put it in that time and space. We have an enormous place within us of silence. And you hear amazing things when you find out you can tap into it. Now, for people who really have something like tinnitus or tinnitus, or who really just can't stand being quiet, you can get ear things that you put in with white noise. The sound of a stream flowing, or just some sound of wind in the trees. There are people who just, real silence makes them very nervous. So sometimes solitude is not for them, because they can't stand that scent. There's like a pressure that happens for some people with silence. They can't relax with total silence. In other words, they don't want to be in a deprivation tank, sensory deprivation tank. So that's a possibility. If you don't do the first Buddhist meditation, there are learning. It's so simple. You sit, you breathe. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. Breathing in, I relax. Breathing out, I let go. You just are getting into a rhythm and a quietness that you can't get really in any other meditation. But all the other meditations work too. Walking is a great meditation to add the silence. Okay? And even to stillness. You can walk in stillness, which is very interesting.
Can I say something about
Yes,
that?
absolutely.
Okay, so this morning, my new meditation, I don't sit a lot on a pillow,
Yeah.
but swimming to me, I've just discovered swimming, the back and forth, the meditative, it just, when I'm done, I'm a new person. I'm
Now,
calm.
swimming gets
Yeah.
your breathing
Yeah, it's the
into-
breathing in and
into
out.
a rhythm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's changed enormously.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
exercise will do it. Actually, when I was a little kid, I used to get in the bathtub and put my head under the water because everything sounds different. You know, you
Yeah.
got out all the stuff going on in the house.
Yeah.
So now that your brothers and sisters yelling and screaming, and so when you're anytime in water, going underwater is kind of a new level of
Yeah.
experience too. But so we're talking, that's deep listening. And I know I have other things to say about it, and I have. But anyway, so there it is. We're getting started. We're aware that if we're following the Dharma, and we spend, all these things, by the way, happen simultaneously. You don't learn suffering and then learn the causes of suffering, but they're continuous merging and flow. But if you're at the point where you say, okay, I understand the suffering, I got a pretty good grasp, well, that one's easy. I understand the various causes of suffering. And now I'm looking at this, and he's saying, you know, the third noble truth is the cessation of suffering. Is that true? Is it possible? And now you go personal. The other is looking out there, checking everybody and everything out there, and now you go in there and say, can I really stop suffering? I know I can't stop it in the whole world, but can I stop my own suffering? And now it's in your lap, and all I can say is the first step to actually doing it, the doing part, is to be aware that yes, it probably is true, but you're going to be skeptical. Accept your skepticism, because the Buddha said, don't take anything on blind faith, even from me. It must be experienced to be yours. And it won't be done or felt or last in the same way. It's not cookie cutter. Everybody has different circumstances, different temperaments, different nervous systems, everything. But you get the idea that I can do this. And the first thing I do now is become aware of the sufferings that I could get rid of if I change myself. Somebody give me an example.
Maya Angelou
Yeah?
said, I can be changed by something, but I refuse to be reduced by it. Or I will not be reduced by
That's
it.
good.
And to your point, what I feel she's saying is when we confront something inside of ourselves, or we're confronting a story that that won't stop in our head, something that happened in the past, the more we have a relationship, we actually change in relationship with it. We see it differently. We notice it differently. Coming back to what I was saying before, that person who did, or those people, or that event, may not necessarily have had it out for me, but that was the only thing they had at that time. That was the only way they could
Right.
express it. And so in my silence, rather than getting worked up and defensive and retaliating or needing to set up a revenge, I notice what's actually occurring.
And
I
what
have
do you do the
compassion.
minute you notice?
Calm, settle, quiet.
You are aware of it.
You're aware.
You're
Yeah.
aware of it,
And you're changed.
and you just take it with you, and you're honest.
Completely honest. That's
And
the
you
change.
that's the other big inward truth.
And because you've changed, you've grown exponentially, you've grown in the experience, which means you're not reduced by it.
Mhm.
You're not diminished in any way or contracted in any way. You've expanded and you're now more available.
What happens to some of you when you sit for, let's say, half an hour? Do you get restless? Do you begin to dream, daydream? do you start to get nervous? Think about being really aware of your own response to your own agenda. If I am going to sit here and be sensory, just hear the noises, feel the breezes, can I keep my focus on that, or do I start worrying about what my sister did last week? You know, can I just kind of hold my attention? You don't have to be concentrating and focused to narrow. You want focus open. There's a difference between a focus that is one-pointed and narrow, and there's a place for that, and it's very powerful in Buddhism, is one-pointed attention.
Can I tell you what I do with that?
What do you do? I don't want everybody to jump in here.
Start
We
the
have extra
day.
time. I don't have any
I start the
videos.
day about 45 minutes before anybody else, the dogs and Nando start with me. And so I go and I start the coffee pot. That's the only thing that I really do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I with the coffee, and then I have my phone. But for the first half hour, I just sit in the view. That's the gift that's been given to me. Really the best view I've ever had a place in, which there's so many here. And then after a half hour, I look at the phone. But I don't start with looking at the phone. It's there and it doesn't beep because this is at 5:15, so nobody's done anything yet. But that's how I start every day, and it helps me to stay with the things that we talk about during the day. To just start at that oneness, to go back to the oneness of me and nature and the birds, especially 5:15. The birds are alive.
That's the very best thing, I think. If you can connect to nature first thing in the morning.
It's a really good thing.
You know, and add a cup of coffee or tea if you want it, but just connect to nature. That's why we love the breeze at dawn, as secrets to tell you.
Yeah,
And there's just something so magical about that hour before dawn.
And I think the caffeine doesn't kick in until that half hour when I look at the phone, so that's good. Because then the juices start about
So you
being
have time before the
productive
drugs
and-
take effect. Is
Yeah,
that what you're saying?
yeah. So it's kind of a little chemistry experiment I'm doing. You know? But that really.
How many people
makes a
here
big
do
difference.
this? Almost everybody.
Not 45 minutes anymore.
It doesn't have to.
Yeah.
10 seconds.
Well, that's a start. It's not much, but it's a start. I mean, we only use 3 minutes where most people would have a half hour because they would set up a morning session. And we only have a 1 hour session. So it's just enough to, you know, here I am. I'm coming into the present moment. I'm here now. I'm not out there. Forget that till I get done.
Hey, Ruthie,
Yeah.
I think we do have the videos, right?
I have a little short one, but it's
Okay.
not. But,
Because you said we didn't have any, so I was wondering.
oh, I have a video, but we don't have.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
we
we
have
do.
service. We can watch it.
Oh, we have
We're all
Wi-Fi?
set- we're all
I
set-
do.
Yeah.
we're all
Well,
set
I
for
want
you.
to bring up a couple things before we get to that.
Maybe we didn't need it.
Yeah.
It's a very small one, actually, and I have something I want to share with you and actually with. Suzanne and I just were together a couple days more. She toted me all over San Jose.
All over
But
Price
we were
Mart, not
talking
San
about
Jose.
the fact that if you begin to
7
really
hours.
think about it, with all the great international suffering that is going on all around the globe, the thing you don't hear in the news and don't see is the explosion in the last 10 years of people who know to go to retreats. They will go for a day, 2 days, a week. Now they're beginning to catch on and doing it even longer. And we are fine. When I first got into Buddhism a long time ago, Sharon Salzberg wrote a book for people to be able to make an at-home retreat because there weren't any. Now you can go, there's one in San Jose today and one in, they're everywhere. Nobody
There's
talks about
500 in this area
That's
at all
right.
times.
And people now know how much benefit there is in turning off everything just for a period of time. I love Sharon's thing. I was going to say it because she titled her little booklet on how to have an at-home retreat, and she titled it, "Don't just do something, sit there." And I could hear my mother saying to the boys, particularly who were lounging around the living room and so on, "Well, you guys just don't sit there. Get up and do something." Just the opposite. But anyway, that ability, any way you can find it, if you are honest with yourself, and if you say, you know what, I need more me time, because I really do suffer. The things going on in my life are causing me emotional distress or pain. I've already turned off the TV, whatever. Then you formulate your own program and you stick to it. So that's that. Now where's this? Jeff and I, where's my red book? You see it? Where's my red book?
Here it is. They're bringing it up for you. Other side.
Oh, here it is. Okay, Jeff, this is for you. I can't read it.
Is
Which
this Teresa Villa?
Yeah. I was looking for something else, and I came across Saint Teresa of Avila.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so charmed. And the first one is, I think it's the shorty.
1500s Catholic mystic.
Yeah, 1500. Well, she was a big time.
Everything was pretty mystical back in the 1500s.
She was especially though.
Well, she was really something. She was the chief nun. Is this the one about stillness?
Yep.
I just thought this was charming, and then Jeff and I discovered some more of her. So since we've got extra time, we'll do that through.
Okay.
Yeah. So here we go. This is stillness and silence.
This magnificent refuge is inside you. Enter. Shatter the darkness that shrouds the doorway. Step around the poisonous vipers that slither at your feet, attempting to throw you off your course. Be bold. Be humble. Put away the incense and forget the incantations they taught you. This got her in trouble, I'm assuming.
Yeah, she got in a lot of trouble, and the Inquisition almost got her. I didn't know any of this.
Ask no permission from the authorities. Slip away. Slip away. Close your eyes and follow your breath to the still place that leads to the invisible path that leads you home.
Wow. This reminds me of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which is going home.
Mm-hmm.
Your own true nature, your clear white light of Buddha self.
Can I read that last part again from
Yeah.
Slip Away?
Yes.
Slip away, close your eyes, and follow your breath to the still place that leads to the invisible path that leads you home.
So, home is a very key concept. And one of the things we got to remember, we have a lot of trouble with is semantics. Because we really do not have a vocabulary for non-dual. As I said, quantum physics is working very hard to get into the emptiness, which really isn't empty, it's everything. To deal with that. But when you are listening to talks and you're just letting it come in, be alert that if something doesn't sound right, it may just be that you're not hearing it the same way it was intended, or that it's got enough sometimes you'll hear somebody doesn't mean anything, and somebody will say the same thing using different words and it makes sense. But now this one of the things I really believe in, along with being honest, the next thing is to develop, if you don't have one, you better work on it. You've got one somewhere. Somewhere in you, you have a sense of humor. No matter how bad it is, there's a MASH unit in there somewhere. So, no matter how bad it is, and Ram Dass was always so big on that, he would say, if you don't have a sense of humor, it just isn't fun. But anyway, we found that this is Saint Teresa. You're not going to expect this. I just threw it to her, I did, but I just asked her.
No, I sent this to you.
Oh, you sent it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we sent it.
Once when she was traveling to one of her convents, St. Teresa of Avila was knocked off her donkey and fell into the mud, injuring her leg. Lord, she said, you couldn't have picked a worse time for this to happen. Why would you let this happen?
Why, God?
And the response in prayer that she heard was, that is how I treat my friends. Teresa answered, and that is why you have so few of them.
That just knocked me off my sleeve and my socks, so I just loved it. And then there was one other. Was it this one?
No, that's the one you... No, those two are the same one.
What's the single one?
No, I don't have any more. You have more.
Here it is. Okay, I didn't do a double, one for you and one for me. No, it's here. We also talk about...
No, that's the same one.
Oh. Strength on that side.
Interior
It's
castle.
about the castle. All right, now this is about the fact that when we get through where we're going now, you get to the four Brahma Viharas and equanimity, and you get to the place of sublime abode. The most beautiful places in the world in your home. It's the home you're headed for. And now this is hers. And this killed him.
It's very flowery.
Yeah, this is real flowery. So here we are, she's a nun, we're thinking convent, we're thinking austerity. Here you go.
I view her more like Stevie Nicks.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Anyway, here she goes.
There's a secret place, a radiant sanctuary,
Inside.
as real as your own kitchen. More real than that. Constructed of the purest elements, overflowing with 10,000 beautiful things. Worlds within worlds, forests, rivers, velvet coverlets thrown over feather beds.
Oh, God, that sound good to a nun.
Fountains bubbling beneath a canopy of stars. Bountiful forests, universal libraries. A wine cellar offering an intoxication so sweet you will never be sober again. It's really good. A clarity so complete you will never again forget. This magnificent refuge is inside you. Enter. Shatter the darkness that shrouds the doorway. Believe the incredible truth that the Beloved has chosen for his dwelling place, the core of your own being. Because that is the single most beautiful place in all of creation.
So that is that. How are we doing on time?
It's also
It's
the
11.
best place to hide
It's
it.
11 o'clock.
Oh, it is. Well,
It's what?
The best place to hide it.
To hide what?
That heaven is inside of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Exactly. What goes on in Las Vegas may stay in Las Vegas. What goes on, unfortunately, in yourself ends up being reflected.
Lisa, say more of what you mean when you say that.
Well, is
Now-
this something you read weeks or maybe months ago about looking for that jewel, and it's like, or maybe it was a joke or something, but it was like where could God hide this jewel? It's like, well, here people are gonna find it, here people are gonna find it. Well, where will they not
Well, since we thought we had extra time, we didn't for all the conversation, but we did get some conversation. But we have one very short, 8-minute video, and we're going to have to use it for the whole thing because where we're going, where she went, where we're going is what you're developing for your strategy is equanimity. Everything you go to collections. You know how to
Can I
get
go
it?
to, I'm on YouTube, home.
Yeah, go up here to collections. Collections, up at the top.
Yes.
And there's one there that says December Talks. Yeah, I mean, it only has one. But briefly, I will say this. Every single teaching in Buddhism by the Buddha and by just about everybody else ends up with balancing, and that's why it's called the middle way, and we can talk about it more some other time. But here it's just this little shorty. It's made for, I think, high school or college kids. And I just thought, you know, this isn't a big deal. This is what it is, though. It's pretty good.
Who is this?
I don't even know. It's
No,
some
no.
young
December
man.
talks.
Oh, there it is. The second one down, right there.
Oh, good.
All right, now double click it and make
Hey guys,
it
what's
bigger.
up? This is
I got it.
Brian.
There you go.
Bright and early morning, just
Can you hear
meditating
it?
and jumping straight into this daily video. Really excited about it. One of my favorite games, one of my favorite ideas, it's called How to Play the Equanimity Game. Oh, shadow going on here. All right, how to play the equanimity
You
game.
got it.
So first, let's start by defining our terms. One of my favorite words, equanimity. A beautiful word, equanimity. The word comes from two little Latin words, equus and animus, which basically means equal or balanced mind. So equanimity, equus, animus, means a balanced mind. That is technical description, pretty hot. So equanimity, one of my favorite words, one of my favorite ideals and virtues, having a balanced mind. Now, that's part one, defining our terms. Part two, a quote. There's a quote from Marcus Aurelius. So Marcus Aurelius is one of my favorite philosophers. He was the Roman emperor and philosopher. You might know him from his cameo in the movie The Gladiator. He was that cool old dude. This is from his book Meditations, which is a fantastic book, which actually means Meditations. It's kind of a mistranslation of notes to himself. So Marcus Aurelius, much like in that movie The Gladiator, when he was in the kind of Danube region of what's now Germany, dealing with those barbarians, he was writing notes to himself, meditations. And this is one of those notes he wrote to himself. He said, when force of circumstance upsets your equanimity, lose no time recovering your self-control, and do not remain out of tune longer than you can help. Habitual recurrence to the harmony will increase your mastery of it. Just love that. When force of circumstance upsets your equanimity, lose no time recovering your self-control, and do not remain out of tune longer than you can help. Habitual recurrence to the harmony will increase your mastery of it. So much goodness there. So first, let's notice, he starts by saying when force of circumstances upsets your equanimity. He doesn't say if, right? Big difference there. When you get thrown off balance, not if. We're all going to get thrown off balance at different times throughout the rest of our lives. Hopefully we're stretching and we're continuing to grow, we're pushing our edges, and we're not going after some silly ideal of never having an off moment again. Dan Millman says something great. He says, there are no enlightened beings. There are only more or less enlightened moments. When we embrace that fact, we know that force of circumstance will upset our equanimity. The question is, what do we do when that happens? And I like to play the equanimity game. So I kind of made this a game. When I'm sitting here and I'm feeling pretty groovy, you know, I got a little happy face, everything's good, boom, I get knocked off. Sad face. Right? I get knocked off this way, sad face. The game becomes, the equanimity game, how quickly can I get back to this state of equilibrium, this state of equanimity where I have a balanced mind, right? So I'm off. How do I get back on? I'm off. How do I get back on? Really, really cool way that I've found to approach it. So here's our game plan. Number one, we got to make the whole thing a game. We got to make life a game. As my whiteboard says, it's all a game. So it's all a game. This is all supposed to be fun as we optimize our lives. And when we find ourselves off balance, first thing we got to do is, okay, we made the game. Second thing we do is we notice when we're off. So we got to be able to notice it. Having awareness of when we're off is, in fact, the most important part of the whole process. Because you're totally numbing yourself, and you're not even aware of when you're off, and you're going from one distraction to another, whether that's TV or Facebook or the news or whatever it is, constantly numbing yourself. You're not noticing when you're off in general, and specifically in a moment. You just kind of run through. You have a stimulus and a response. Well, we've got to notice when we're off. Wow, I'm really feeling off right now. I'm about ready to yell, or I did just yell, or whatever it is. So notice when you're off. And then, most important part, see how fast you can get back on. When force of circumstance upsets your equanimity, lose no time recovering your self-control. Okay, cool. How fast can we get back on? I got thrown off. How fast can I get back on? Right? So then we go to, okay, it's game time. How do we get back on? Well, we recognize it's game time. Our highest goal, you remember that one? Going back, we had our purpose. Remember, our purpose, our highest goal was to be that light bulb that was plugged in, right? Well, okay, our highest goal is game time. I'm knocked off. I'm not being my highest self. Let me get back on. What do I do next? Well, I recommend you smile. You take a really deep breath. Breath and breathing is such an amazingly powerful tool. We're going to talk about it a lot throughout these little videos. It's one of the quickest ways to build your willpower is to take a deep breath. Then we get out of fight or flight, and we get into the relaxation response. And it's only from this place of deeper relaxation where we're not freaking out that we can actually do something that's more consistent with our highest version of ourselves. And then I move into the third part, which is let's ask ourselves a couple of questions. I like, what would the highest version of myself do right now? It's kind of like the high school again. What would the highest version of myself do in this moment? I'm feeling off. Well, what would that version of me do? Another question is, if I knew what it was, what would my optimal response be? So you're stressed out, you're challenged, force of circumstance has forced you to lose your self-control. What would your ideal, what would your optimal response be in this moment? Feel into that, take another deep breath or two, and then do that. Do these actions that your highest version of yourself tells you is what you should be doing. Again, not complicated. You do that, voila, you are back in balance. You move from the eek sauce to the happy face, and you've recovered your equanimity, your balance of mind. Really important thing to note here too is when you make this a habitual practice, your ability to get back to this balance point, you're never going to get to the point where you're never thrown off. Right? I don't think. But we're going to be able to get to our balance point, our state of equanimity, more and more quickly and more consistently. So there you go. The equanimity game. Why I think you want to think about playing it and how to go about playing it. Let's go ahead and rock it. Equanimity, balance of mind. Make it all a game. Notice when you're off. See how fast you can get back on. Smile. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what would the highest version of myself do right now? And if I knew what it was, what would my optimal response be? Do that, voila. You hit your highest goal. You're living with purpose. You're feeling the equanimity, and that feels good. And everyone around you feels considerably better than when you have an imbalance, unequal, mean mind. So, hope you enjoyed. Look forward to sharing more. We're going to talk about all kinds of ways to maintain our equanimity beyond just a few ideas.
That is a noisy road to silence, man. That's driving on the Los Angeles freeway to silence, is what I'm saying.
That's your dualistic world.
And this guy's read every self-help book ever written.
Well,
I'm sorry, it's just so funny to me. It's just all. Like, I don't want to be in his head. I don't want to go to his party. You know what I'm saying? It's too noisy, his parties.
It's kind of nice to know that there's a younger group of college or high school age young people that are doing this sort of thing too. Because we don't see much or hear much from them. I don't. I'm just seem to be disconnected.
Ruthie, can I add one thing about that Eightfold Path? You see it up here, that wheel. This is the exact idea that you've been talking about all day, is that you are the captain of your ship. The goal of the ship is to lead a tranquil life. And therefore, you practice these things, and no matter what, you can see the waves coming over the ship, and you stay at the wheel, steady at the wheel, no matter what is happening in your life. When you become the master of the core of you.
That's it.
Now you stay on course. Other people can tip around you. You don't tip.
That's right.
The more I practice this, the more that's true for me. It's not perfect, but the more it is, more it's true.
Absolutely. And thanks everybody for hanging in there without videos today by anybody, but I really hope that this resonates for each of us over something in our lives. Whether it's a big meltdown or just irritation. If we're irritated a lot, whatever it is that's troubling us. But when happiness is talked about, which is often noticed by people coming in from other things, they'll say, why is everything ending up with happiness? Happiness as you go through equanimity, loving kindness, compassion, and joy. Equanimity is the fourth of the Dharma pillars, the four great immeasurables. And equanimity, balance, brings about peace of mind, and a calmness, and a heart. They're not talking about a happiness of material world, obviously, we all know that. But that's why this is when you go through the Dharma and you're trying to reach your own true nature, your internal home, you will be happy in the sense of having peace of mind. And it may sometimes even then get wrong. But anyway, thanks to everybody. I guess it's time for metta.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Everybody here is familiar, so we'll just jump right in. Silence, stillness. I will say this, the three talks we had, Adyashanti gave the talks, and I hope you like him. I'm very, very fond of him, his approach to things. But the first talk we had began with the words, well, which is it? That was the talk on paradox. That everything we hit over and over and over again are choices, and the choices are always fewer more. So we are constantly out of equilibrium, maybe for something little, like what tie should I wear today, or what shall I have for lunch, little ones, or they can be monstrous, and everything on the spectrum in between. But we are constantly out of balance. Every time we take a step, we're momentarily out of balance. So equilibrium is a baked in the cake, built-in factor in Buddhist teachings. And so that's it for that. Now, the second one was about silence and stillness, and the last sentence of his talks on that were, this is what gives you access. Silence and stillness. They are what give you access to your interior. So that's the where we are. Okay, so we'll do meta, which along with equilibrium is one of the four immeasurables. Stretch if you gotta stretch. Everybody go. Shake or stretch or whatever. Go into your silent sitting space. Now we're going to have a guided meditation. As I say, try all the meditations. Walking meditation, chanting, whatever.
Swimming,
sports. Make of life a meditation in that respect. You can do that. Okay, so first person to bring to mind, yourself. Deep breath. To yourself, repeat after me. May I be well. May no harm come to me. May I live with ease. That's equanimity. Calm and peaceful. May I be happy. Take another deep breath. Bring to mind someone you love. Deeply love. Say their name. Smile to them. And say, may you be well. Oh, may no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm, and peaceful. May you be happy. And now you move one more circle out to a neutral person. Just someone you know, but you don't know them well. They're just somebody you have no ill will towards, and they seem pleasant. And you say to them, if you don't know their name, dear friend, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. Now, we move out another circle out to someone with whom we are in conflict. We take a couple of deep breaths. We bring their face to mine. And with full meaning, as full as we can make it, with just a little malice as we can have, we say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. Take another couple of deep breaths. Take your hands and place them over your heart. Symbolically, your heart is a place that can hold everything. More so than mind. Mind and heart are one word in Buddhism, but in this case it's the heart that holds everything. And now we say, may all beings everywhere, on this plane and all other planes, be well. May all beings everywhere be safe. all beings everywhere be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere be happy. Now we sit with this. If we're at home, you can sit with it for as long as you feel like sitting. And that can sometimes be a very long time when you're focused. So just take your time, go into that silent and still space. And when you're ready now to take your hands, release them. Open your eyes, smile to your neighbors and your friends. And together, I guess I'll say we'll do, it's kind of switched around over there. I'll do call and repeat or whatever you call it.
Call and response.
Call and response. I forget going to church. You know, it's been a long time. Okay, everybody, go in peace.
Go in peace.
Go making peace.
Go making peace.
Living gently.
Living gently.
Loving mightily.
Loving mightily.
And bowing to the mysteries.
Bowing to the mysteries.
There we go. Very good. Yeah, are we doing lunches today? Anybody want